Construction champions, it's your host Ron Nussbaum, and we're here for another amazing episode of Construction Champions Podcast, where we're burning the house down twice a week, every Monday and Thursday. You can find us 9 a.m. wherever you listen to podcasts or watch podcasts. We're here once again with another amazing guest. As always, you guys aren't here to hear Ron. You're here to hear the people I bring on the show and get some great advice on how you can be a champion in the construction industry. Luke, it is great to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Ron. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Why don't you take some time, tell all the construction champions out there a little bit about yourself and what got you here to today?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So my name is Luke Boyenger. I am the CEO at Cruzumi CFO and Advisory. We specialize in providing CFO services on an outsourced basis for construction companies. And yeah, I came across what you do, Ron, and immediately loved it. I consider myself to be a champion of the construction industry as well. And I'm really out here trying to do everything I can to try to make sure that business owners in the construction space are as successful as they possibly can. Got a heart for those business owners and want to see them succeed. So when I saw that you exist and that you do this podcast, I was immediately like, okay, I want to be on there.
Awesome, man. Well, we're going to dive right in there, and I'm going to ask you the $1 million question. And that is, what makes a construction champion?
Introducing BuilderComms, your all-in-one construction communication software. Say goodbye to communication mishaps that cause frustration among builders, contractors, and clients. The BuilderComms platform unifies communications, making it easy for you to chat, share updates, and collaborate effectively in one place. Experience the transformation in construction project management with BuilderComms. Visit us at buildercoms.com to learn more and start streamlining your projects today.
Absolutely. And when I hear the term construction champion, what immediately comes to mind is anyone who is championing the construction industry, the cheerleaders of the construction industry, if you will, the ones who are passionate about seeing the construction industry thrive and business owners in that space being really successful. Unfortunately, there's a lot of construction businesses that are short-term in nature. They don't thrive. They don't make it, and it's a real shame. And I certainly want to be a champion of the industry, someone who stands in the gap and helps those businesses really thrive and succeed.
Yeah, it is a shame that we do see a lot of companies just come and go rather quickly, probably at a higher rate than I guess I never really did any comparison, so I'm speaking off the cuffs here. Is probably at a higher rate than most other industries. We have businesses that just start up and then just disappear. Why do you think that is?
There's just a lot of bad business models in the construction industry, for starters. And second, it's not a simple business model, a successful construction business, right? It's not like house cleaning where you show up, you clean something, you leave, you get paid, and it's pretty easy to figure out whether or not you made money. Construction is way more complex than that, right? You've got employees, so you've got labor, you've got materials, you've got subcontractors. You've got all of these moving pieces and variables that are really hard to track and figure out. Did I actually make any money or not? And because of that extra complexity and difficulty in understanding the financial side of the business, it's just harder to succeed.
Yeah, I can see that when there's just a lot of moving pieces. There really is nothing simple to running construction, but I'm a big component of it's business. If we looked at construction, it's just being a business. Instead of saying I have a construction business, if we would just say we have a business, we just happen to do construction work, it would make that understanding a lot better of what you're starting to dive in there, I think.
Yeah, 100%. That, and I think owners of construction businesses being able to get to a point where they fully embrace the CEO hat and not being the laborer, if you will, or an operations person.
Well, yeah, let's dive into that because that's, I think, something that isn't probably talked about enough is where if you're going to have a business, you do have to have a pathway to you being the person that's running the business or hiring somebody to run that business. Like it can't just
Yeah.
be an aimless ship.
Yep. 100%. Totally agree. And that's where a business model shift has to occur at some point in the life cycle of the business. Most people who get into construction got into it as like a handyman, or somebody needed a roof and they did a roof for them and like, oh, I actually kind of like roofing. I think I could make a business out of this. They almost like stumble their way into being a contractor, because they're really good at doing a skill, roofing or finish carpentry or whatever the case may be. And then it just kind of keeps growing and growing. They hire employees to help them. And at some point, you have to decide, am I running a hobby that makes good money where I'm going to keep doing the work? Or am I going to become the CEO of a company that I'm going to try to grow and scale and delegate down to a team?
So how do you help guys get over that hump where it's a hobby that you make really good money at, but it's a complete pain in the ass because we all know
Yeah.
we've all been there, to actually running a business that is highly profitable. It's not a pain in the ass. You have some
Yeah.
freedoms. Like there's a lot of stuff that comes with making that transition into being a business.
Yeah. One of the big hesitations that I see in business owners is you get to a point where your next hire needs to be somebody who doesn't earn any revenue. Businesses are great at growing and hiring when they're hiring skilled laborers that go out and earn revenue and bring cash into the business. They're great at that. But eventually you won't get any bigger until you can hire someone that really is just doing operations and management and supervisory level work, and they're not necessarily driving any revenue in the company. And I find business owners are really, really reluctant to do that because they don't feel confident that they can afford to spend, you know, 100,000 a year or whatever the cost is in your area for a project manager or supervisor or construction lead or something like that, who can take over kind of management of the jobs, but isn't necessarily bringing any more revenue into the company. And one of the easiest ways to address that is by implementing a cash flow forecast in the business, where you can say, we know based on our WIP report, this is the revenue we're going to bring in over the next 12 months based on what we've sold so far this year. We know what our operating expenses are and what our margin on that revenue is. So we can forecast out 12 months and see how much cash flow we have over that period of time. Now let's plug in a variable of hiring a project manager or a construction lead. But what does that do to our cash flow over the next 12 months? Can we afford it or can we not afford it? If we can't, what do we need to change and grow in the business so that we can afford it? Because we're not going to get to that next level until we had that position.
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. And being somebody that came up through the construction industry and has sat in all these different seats, I think
Yeah.
a good project manager, somebody that can run the projects or operations is money well spent. It will,
Yep.
I think we look at that as a role that's not revenue generating, but it actually does generate revenue when you have somebody there that understands
Yeah.
what they're doing.
Yep.
You become more profitable. You become capable of doing more revenue.
Yeah, that's 100%. You just nailed it right there. It doesn't add revenue, it adds capacity, and capacity adds revenue.
Hmm. I love that. So, guys moving into becoming a CEO. Like
Yep.
this is a hard thing to talk about in the construction space because that's not, guys start businesses because they don't want to have a boss, but for some reason we don't ever think about the fact that we have to be the boss.
Mm-hmm.
So walk through the kind of the mindset shift that has to happen for guys as you head into that. Because I'm not a believer. A
Yeah.
construction champion does not just have a hobby that's highly profitable. A
Yep.
construction champion has a well-oiled machine that runs and goes out and wins championships. Like that's why I'm
Yep.
a champion for the construction industry. I believe in this industry and everything it can be.
Yeah, you know, there's a mindset shift that has to happen. You have to be able to shift your focus away from operations to how do we do the work by hiring and delegating that to some kind of construction supervisor or president of construction, whatever the case may be, depending on your business and size and where you are in that life cycle. But you've got to get operations off your plate and give it to someone else who can run operations, someone capable, someone that you trust that will do a great job and maintain the level of quality that you need for your business. When you have that in place, it frees your brain up to not be worried about operations all the time. And now you can go be CEO, and your focus now is entirely on building and supporting and coaching and training the team that is running the business. And probably 90% of your time is now focused on sales. You're the rainmaker. Go out and make it rain, bring in the business, bring in the work, build the relationships to fill the funnel so that your operations team can go out and kill it delivering all the services.
I love that, because a lot of times, and so about, you have to find somebody that you can trust to do this, because I think that's one of the biggest pieces that guys look at and say, like, I'm going to go out and sell this project, and then I have to be able to hand it off to the right person. And you have to not just find the right person, but you have to just go ahead and let go and trust that person. Do the right thing.
100%. And it's a difficult shift to make, for sure. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's easy. Most people got into construction because they were really good at some kind of skilled trade, not because they thought they'd make an awesome CEO. But they were so good at what they did that their business grew. And now they've got this opportunity in front of them to really capitalize on the excellence that they've established and take what it was that made you awesome at your skill, your trade, and embed that in your team so that it continues to repeat under your brand without you being the one to do it. And now you get to go learn how to be something completely new that you've never had to be before, which is a CEO, and you're going to suck at it for a while. And that's okay, because we all do. But you've got to dive into it. You've got to embrace it. You've got to start learning, and you've got an opportunity to go build a multi-million-dollar business now.
Yeah. I guess to me, like, that should just be the natural progression, but that's just not what we see happen. I'm trying to piece her out, like, why the construction industry is very fragmented when it comes to this. Like, there is a lot of people doing a lot of things that are not their businesses, but, like, I think I love your term that it's a hobby that's profitable. Like, you're out there doing things. We just have so much of that. But then we have great companies doing great things, and it's not because everybody can't. It's because a lot of people are not willing to make that step into what you're talking about. And I just don't quite understand why we have that mindset in the industry, because that needs to just change.
I completely agree, Ron. And I think a lot of it, from my perspective, from what I've seen in the industry, is that there's too much value placed on being able to say that you built it all yourself. You pulled yourself up by your bootstraps. You didn't get no help from nobody. You did it yourself. Look how awesome you are. And that might be a great story to tell your buddies at the bar. But you know what's an even better story to tell your buddies at the bar? My business grew to the point where it was too big and I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know how to get it to the next level. So I reached out and asked the right people for help, and they helped me. And now, instead of running $1 million company, I'm running a $10 million company. That's the story I'd rather tell at the bar.
I absolutely agree with that. And I think I understand that mindset, being that I'm a Marine that spent 13 years in construction. Now I own a software company, and I just kind of went through that with my software company, because we bootstrapped it and everything to get it to where it's at. And I was out in Philadelphia in a room with some people that have amazing companies worth a lot of money. And they looked at me and said, you can't just bootstrap this. This is a software company. You need to go raise money and build a team. And I thought there was some kind of glory in the fact that I was just out here making this happen. And that's not even remotely the case. no one cares. Literally,
Yeah.
they're only going to care about the end outcome, and that's all I care about. But we make it a lot harder on ourselves because we're thinking about that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I've been
Yeah.
to 8 figures a year in a construction company. I understand, like what you're talking about. I 100% understand. Like this is the mindset shift we have to get
Mhm.
to that point where you are this business. You are a machine that generates a great lifestyle for you, your family, your employees, your community. Like we have the potential as construction business owners to do that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think another inhibitor, if you will, is that people have reached out and asked for help before and got a bad result. And so now they're like, well, I can't trust anybody. I've got to do it myself. And I just don't think that's the case. It's like anything else, right? Like let's say you're a roofer. Like what percentage of roofing companies are excellent at what they do? Not all of them. There's some crappy roofers out there, right? Well, okay, now let's compare and contrast that to bookkeepers. There's some crappy bookkeepers out there. There's some really bad ones. There's also some really great ones. So if you hired a bookkeeper trying to get better clarity into your financial numbers and you had a bad experience and it didn't work, that doesn't mean screw bookkeeping, it doesn't work. It means you found a bad one, fire them, try another one, and keep doing that until you find one that actually gives you what you're looking for.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I also think like it's about finding people that you work well with. And we're all too often like we're hire the first person that comes along without even doing any research or anything. But
Yeah,
like if you get along with somebody and you understand them and they're good at what they do, like that's when we're talking consulting or bringing a third party in, I think that's very valuable because then you can have open conversations with them and they can have open conversations with you. If you
right.
have that chemistry or that feeling to your other, like you're never going to be able to have those conversations. It's actually going to lead to the growth that you need to have in your business.
100%. Yep, totally agree.
So with that being said, you help contractors, builders, roofers, I'm taking it as well. Probably anybody in the residential construction space. From your perspective, what are a few things that guys should be looking at when they're looking to go and hire a third party to help them with their business?
Wonderful question. I'm very glad you asked it. And yeah, you're right. I work with um, general contractors. I work with subcontractors, commercial or residential, anyone in the skilled trades, plumbers, roofers, electricians, anyone that's skilled trades, construction, great fit for my firm and what we do. Um, but yeah, what to look for is a great question. And especially when it comes to something like, I'll use bookkeeping as an example because we used that one earlier. Look for relevant experience. Something like bookkeeping, there's no barrier to entry to being a bookkeeper. Like Ron, you could market yourself as a bookkeeper tomorrow if you wanted to. There's
That
no
wouldn't be that
qualification
that
required.
wouldn't be good.
Yeah, but this is what people do. Like I've looked at you know, part of my job as a fractional CFO for companies is to help them evaluate their accounting and bookkeeping functions to see if they're getting good quality out of it. And so I spent a lot of time looking at a lot of bookkeepers and accountants. And I kid you not, I will sometimes look up their bookkeeper and it will be like, oh, they were a high school English teacher for 20 years. And then the next day they were a bookkeeper. It's like, well, how? Like, how did you learn? You were teaching high school English for 20 years and now you know everything there is to know about accounting and bookkeeping. It just doesn't make sense. Look at their background, look at their education. What did they study in college? What did they do after they studied that? Like, do they have a resume that supports the skill set they're claiming to have? That's the best place to start. The second is see if you can get referrals. Go talk to your banker, your lawyer, your tax accountant, and say, hey, who do you know that you have experience with that is a quality bookkeeper that I can rely on? There's so many people out there like myself, like your banker, like your tax accountant, who have already vetted lots of other service providers to find the good ones, and they can just point you to them and say, oh, you want to go work with this person. And then you get to skip the whole process of going and interviewing 20 different bookkeeping firms to try to find one that doesn't suck.
Yeah, and I think if you get somebody that's giving you pushback on any of the questions or anything, that should be a red flag. I think we just have to do what we would expect somebody to do with us as a business, or what we would like. For some reason, sometimes it seems that we get in these situations and people just hire whoever, and then they have that bad experience, and then they're completely jaded on everything, which one of the fastest ways and easiest ways to be able to grow and scale your company is to bring third parties in as you grow, so you don't have to hire full-time employees and take that revenue, that hit every month over and over, when you can fractionally do that as you grow.
100%. Yep. And like I said earlier, if you get a bad one, just fire them and move on to the next one. Like, don't waste a bunch of time sulking about it and, oh, I wasted money on, move on. Next one, next up, who's on deck? Just move on to the next one. And I love looking for service providers that don't require annual contracts, because I don't require an annual contract with my clients. I do month to month, because I want the pressure to know I've got to show up and deliver every month, or my client's going to fire me. And I have the confidence that I can do that. And I don't need an annual contract to keep my clients around, to lock them into something they decide they don't want anymore because I didn't do a good job. So that's something that you can look for too.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point there, is like, move on. We do the same thing with third-party companies as we do with employees, where we just continue to hang on, even though we know it's not a good situation or it's not a good fit, and we don't pull the trigger fast enough and move on to the next person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, man. So it's been great talking today. I love it. You have great advice, great just great everything, man. I love it. So for all the construction champions out there listening, if they wanted to connect with you, follow you, do anything like that, where's the best places for them to do that?
Yeah, there's a couple of places. I have a website, cruzumi.com. It's CRUZUMI. So you can find out about my firm there. I'm also very active on LinkedIn. If you just look for Luke Boyenger on LinkedIn, you can find my profile there. It's pretty easy to contact me that way. I'm very responsive on things like LinkedIn or email. So those are probably the easiest way to reach out.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for taking the time and being on the show today.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. All right, construction champions, another episode in the bag. And do you have a hobby that pays you a lot of money? Like, that's a legit question to ask. Like, are you just showing up, doing your thing, and having a lot of problems? Or maybe you're not even having a lot of problems, but maybe you're at this point where you have to make the decision, is this going to become a business? Think about it. Like, is it going to become a business, or is this just going to be how it always is? Because you're going to have headaches. Stuff's going to be hard. But I can tell you, it gets a lot easier when you make the decision that you're going to run a business and bring in the right people to help run that business. And that dives into me and Luke's second part of our conversation, where we really dove into hiring a third party or a fractional party to come in and help you develop this stuff, help you continue to grow your business. And it's just like an employee. Like, you can have a bad experience with somebody and bring somebody else in. Like, it's not a one and done kind of deal. I think we hear that too often, is where, well, we would never say it was something like, we hired somebody, it was a bad experience, but we need to fill the role, we would bring somebody right back in. We never hear it in that case, but with any of the other stuff is, oh, well, I brought somebody in to do my books and it was a disaster. They weren't any good at it. And I probably kept them on too long, and then I let them go, and I really don't know what's going on, and I don't want to have another bad. Well, you need somebody to do your books, don't you? Like, it's not like a role where you can not have somebody doing it, but that's the story we tell ourselves. Is like, oh, well, it was a bad experience. I'm just not going to do it anymore. It's like if you had somebody that was bad at hanging the shingles and you got rid of them, and what, are you just not going to shingle the roofs anymore? Like, that's not an option, guys. Think about this stuff. Like, this stuff's easy to process. It's hard to look in the mirror and have these conversations, but it's easy to take action on this stuff and continue to grow. So thank you for listening. As always, make sure you go check out all of our great sponsors. And until next time, be the champion you were meant to be.
Introducing BuilderComms, your comprehensive construction communication software. Simplify project management with unified communications, real-time picture and document sharing, and instant project notifications. Keep everyone in the loop and ensure client satisfaction. Experience the transformation in construction project management with BuilderComms. Start streamlining your projects and keeping clients ecstatic today. Say goodbye to misunderstandings and endless email digging. Say hello to more winning time. Choose BuilderComms, your gateway to construction project success.